So good evening, everyone, and welcome book club members and guests. I'm Kevin Kosick. I'm the executive director for the Book Club of California, and it's my pleasure to welcome you all here. On behalf of the board, the volunteers, and the staff, and the members, I'm delighted to welcome you to this year's Oscar Lewis Awards. Now, for those of you who are new to us, the Book Club of California is a nonprofit, member and donor-supported organization that was founded in 1912. Our mission is to preserve and promote the history of the book and the book arts. And we have a particular interest in the literature and history of California and the West. The book club publishes limited edition books. We host a year-round series of exhibitions and programs like the one this evening, both here in San Francisco and in Southern California, on topics including fine printing, design, typography, bookbinding, collecting, California history, book culture, and much, much more. Now, the Book Club of California is a community made up of collectors, printers, designers, booksellers, publishers, writers, and book lovers of all stripes. Membership in the Book Club of California is open to all, and if anyone is interested in joining, please speak with me or a member of the staff. Now, it is my pleasure again to welcome you to the book club here in person and on Zoom, and to tonight's program, the 2026 Oscar Lewis Awards. Now, the Oscar Lewis Awards, did you want to applaud there? Let's applaud them.
The real Oscars.
The real Oscars, the book club's Oscars. The Oscar Lewis Awards were established by the Book Club of California in 1994 in honor of Oscar Lewis, San Francisco author, historian, and Book Club of California secretary from 1921 to 1946. The Oscar Lewis Awards recognize outstanding contributions in two fields, Western history and the book arts. Now, past awardees include some of the most accomplished printers, designers, book artists, and historians. Some of them are with us here tonight in the club rooms, and some of them are joining us on Zoom. Tonight's honorees are as equally talented and impressive as our past recipients. Now, first, I want to thank Dina Pollack for designing and printing the elegant letterpress invitation for this event. She's here. I'm going to embarrass her and say, stand up, stand up. Dina designed and printed the elegant invitation and the handsome certificates that we will be presenting to our honorees this evening. And I also want to thank Terry Castaneda, Nick Aratakis, Gloria Condrup, and Stephanie Kimbrough-Dolan, the co-chairs of the Oscar Lewis Awards Committee. Now, the committee is responsible for reviewing nominations from the membership and selecting the recipients. Thank you all for your incredible work. Half of them are here. The half that are here, Terry Castaneda and Stephanie Kimbrough-Dolan, will be presenting the awards this evening. Honorees will be making brief remarks, but we will not have time for questions and comments after each speaker. You can certainly talk to the recipients after the ceremony. And if you are joining us on Zoom, please feel free to use the chat and the Q&A functions in Zoom to make comments, ask questions. We'll share those with the speakers after tonight's presentation. And now it's my pleasure to introduce our first co-host, MC, Terry Castaneda.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Terry Castaneda, and it's a pleasure to be here tonight to celebrate the 2026 Oscar Lewis Award honorees. Can you hear?
Like them. You said that right.
There. Is that better?
Yeah. For us.
Okay. William Deverell is a historian with a focus on the 19th and 20th century American West and the founding director of the Huntington USC Institute on California and the West, a collaborative research and teaching entity between USC's College of Letters, Arts and Sciences and the Huntington Library. In this position, Bill has mentored countless graduate students who today represent the leading edge of scholarship on California and the West. Deverell earned his BA in American Studies at Stanford University and his MA and PhD in History at Princeton. Since 2004, he has served as a professor of history at the University of Southern California. He has written works on political, social, ethnic, and environmental history and published numerous books and papers on the history of California and the American West, including Land of Sunshine, an environmental history of metropolitan Los Angeles, and Whitewashed Adobe, the rise of Los Angeles and the remaking of the Mexican past, which examines the historical relationship between the growth of LA and Southern California's complex history of racial and ethnic conflict and accommodation. Excuse me. Bill has served on the editorial boards for the Western Historical Quarterly, Pacific Historical Review, and San Diego Histories. In 2003, Dr. Deverell was president of the Western Historical Association. That year, the conference was hosted in Los Angeles, where he delivered a presidential address entitled Searching for a Redemptive West. Although my own disciplinary training is in anthropology, I've recently begun attending the Western history conferences, and this was the first time I'd seen Bill talk about California history in person versus online since, the prior century, probably 1998 or 99. That occasion entailed a meeting with the designers for what was then called the Golden State Museum and took place at Bergamot Station in Santa Monica. I was brand new to California and working for the California State Archives as the museum's project manager. The designers, a firm out of Los Angeles, had a project manager too, who happened to be someone I'd worked with in Texas. Not long before this Santa Monica meeting took place, she arrived in Sacramento to update our team, announcing excitedly that she had just hired 2 content specialists to help develop the inaugural exhibition. One of those individuals was Janet Fireman. The other, she explained, was a hotshot young historian from Southern California. His name was Bill Deverell. Please join me in congratulating William Deverell, recipient of the 2026 Oscar Lewis Award for Western History. After I present Bill with this certificate, he'll offer a few words. Oh.
Okay.
Well,
Now you will. Yeah. Thank you, Terry. I do remember that. I don't remember being a hotshot young historian, but thank you all so much for being here this evening. News of this award came as a lightning bolt email from Kevin Kosick. I am deeply honored to be chosen for this, and I'm thrilled to be here. I flew up this afternoon from Southern California, and I'm terribly excited, and I love these books in this space. Thinking about this award and about this evening and about the remarkable group of past Oscar Lewis Western History Award winners is, I have to admit, breathtaking. That the award is named for Oscar Lewis is in itself honor enough. But now I find myself on a list among so many people I've been privileged to know, people who have mentored and befriended me, people whose books and careers and whose character I have deeply admired. I'm now joined, thanks to this club, with a remarkable cadre. Al Hurtado, Gray Brecken, Rebecca Solnit, Rosemarie Beebe, and Bob Senkowitz, my good friends. Muir and Glenn Dawson, John Briscoe, Malcolm Margolin, my good friend Gary Kurtz, J.S. Holliday, Chuck Wollenberg, Shirley Moore, Bob Hine, and these are just the Lewis Award winners I knew or yet know. And to also know that Doyce Nunes is on the list, whose post was taken up by Kevin Starr, whom I still miss, scholars who left mighty big shoes and even bigger personalities at the University of Southern California. That's deeply meaningful to me too. I'm not ready to hang up my historian spurs yet, but after tonight and the receipt of this honor, I could. Among the countless life-changing things that happened to me when I left Colorado for college, some many decades ago now, 2 of them occurred within weeks of one another the first term of my freshman year at Stanford. I arrived on campus an exuberant pre-med, wanting to follow in the footsteps of my surgeon father. But these being the olden days, as I learned from my initial meeting with my freshman advisor, being pre-med meant being shackled to a set of courses for at least 2 years, with 1 or 2 lonely electives fighting for breathing space on a transcript. Courses like calculus, organic chemistry, human and evolutionary biology, physics, and the like. And while I liked those disciplines, or thought I did, it was as if my advisor had handed me a card and said, "Take these classes. I'll see you in 2 years." I didn't know much at 18, but I knew that I'd come west from my Colorado public school education, not expecting or wanting to have my curiosity hamstrung by rote and hidebound curricular expectations of pre-medical training. I left that first appointment, and despite becoming good friends with that advisor, never looked back. The cascade of courses that filled my transcript tilted decidedly in another direction. New World archaeology, Puritan history and literature, nomadic anthropology, a biography seminar, a triptych of US history courses, one per century, 18th, 19th, 20th, a credit granting writing stint with a Stanford magazine. And I needed a job. I was briefly an undercover security guard, which was boring and exhausting since I had to sleep inside a campus building that officials thought was being robbed at night. They were wrong. I knew there was a special collections library perched high up in Green Library. This was the Bender Room, named, I soon learned, for the great bibliophile and collector Albert Bender. I didn't know it then, but I sure do now. The same Albert Bender who helped found the Book Club of California, and within just a few years of that, published his masterful bibliography of the history of California and the American West. I hiked up to the Bender Room and asked if they needed student workers. They needed one, and I had come to the top of Green Library on the right day at the right time. And so for 10 hours a week at first, as a page, and later as a manuscripts processor, I was in high clover and high heaven. I would have done the job for free. I paged books, I rubbed shoulders and became friends with book and manuscript people, archivists and catalogers, one of whom, a shy, erudite, and kind man, was the son of one of the most celebrated short story writers of the 20th century. Because I could lift and handle their bulkiness and weight, I occasionally got asked to page the mammoth Carlton Watkins photograph albums for 2 men who came in perhaps a half dozen times during my time in special collections. "Can you page Mammoth Watkins volume X or Y or Z?" a staff member would ask. I'd dutifully go get them, put them on a rickety book truck, and bring them to the table, always in the back of the reading room, where these 2 men, one tall and courtly, the other small, bald, and gnomish, sat and talked. As they packed up to leave one day, the small man said something like, "Always good to see you, Wally." To which the tall man said something like, "And you as well, Ansel." Stegner and Adams, right there with me hoisting priceless heavy books to their table of friendship and shared curiosity. It's not just the passage of time or the intercession of nostalgia. Things fell into place for me when I left my advisor's office and broke free of pre-med curricular handcuffs. And when rare book curator Richard Phillips, an extraordinarily decent man, hired me at something like $2.50 an hour in the Bender Room. But again, I would have done it all for free. I worked there throughout college, and when I had summer breaks in graduate school, I came back west and had the enviable task of working with the Ambrose Bierce manuscript collection and the remarkable Chicano activism collections. I spent my Stanford time with books and book people, librarians, curators, archivists, professors, graduate students, postdocs. It was a package deal. And it felt so wonderful to see myself, admittedly as a journeyman, as part of that community of thinkers, readers, and writers. In my final term, my friends in special collections invited me to put on an exhibit of my choice in the rotunda space in the library. That, in turn, became an undergraduate class that my professors allowed me to teach, an investigation of the state of California's furious response to John Steinbeck's The Grapes of Wrath. The state brought out its own book, The Grapes of Gladness, in which the fictional Hode family thanked their lucky stars and California's corporate agricultural power brokers for how good they had it, Great Depression or not. And all of that led to the eventual receipt of a precious handwritten card from Carol Steinbeck, letting me know that John himself would have greatly enjoyed our exhibit and the materials we put on display. When I finished my undergraduate degree, my path was to graduate school. But there were forks in that planned road. One direction was decided quickly. I wanted to pursue graduate work in American literature. I devoured the American naturalists, Jack London, Upton Sinclair, Theodore Dreiser, Frank Norris, and I can remember to this day the feel and the smell of those early edition hardbacks of their novels, just as I can remember being curious why so many of their plots were set in the West. But my professor mentors said, don't do that. There aren't very many jobs in literature. Undaunted simply because I didn't know any better, I said, okay, how about history? Marginally better, they said. The disciplinary die was cast. But the other fork was a pre-professional one. I really thought graduate school would take me to a career teaching high school, preferably back in the Rocky Mountains, where I'm from. With all that hubris of youth, I reached out to get some more advice. I knew even back then that I shared Colorado with two writers I already greatly admired, Carrie McWilliams and David Lavender, both of whom grew up on the Western Slope. I know McWilliams was a book club member, and I can't imagine Lavender wasn't. I knew their books, and I knew Lavender taught at the Thatcher School in Ojai. So I called him up. As a college senior trying to determine my graduate school and teaching future, he could not have been more generous. We chatted about his work, about Telluride, where he was from, and about his long career. Go to graduate school, he said. Obtain your PhD. If you want to teach high school, do it. But you'll also have the ability to compete for university jobs with the doctorate. Again, it all fell into place. Serendipity, timing, fate, and I'm the beneficiary. I studied the Civil War, African-American political history, and Reconstruction with the great James McPherson at Princeton. And while I loved that focus of study, I found myself gravitating to the West as the focus of my research and dissertation work. Jim McPherson, with his usual generosity, blessed my choice. One of my other mentors had a different response. I want to write about the West, I said, nervously, in an office hours appointment. West of what? He asked. No doubt wondering if there was any history or anything at all west of Fifth Avenue or maybe of Central Park. He got over it, and we remain friends to this day. I did write on the West. My thesis and first book examined the reception of the railroad in post-Gold Rush California. Oscar Lewis's monumental The Big Four literally took up a corner of my desk as guide and inspiration. The decades have unspooled quickly, and I followed my historian's curiosity into archives great and small, into garages and attics at the invitation of perhaps hundreds of people who've contacted me to say, I have these letters, or I found a box of photographs, or, and this has happened to me 3 times, I have trunks containing family papers from 19th century California. Would you like to see them? More often than not, the hunt is a successful treasure hunt of discovery and of next steps. The materials have ended up in one library or another, under care and cataloging, so that, so that they will last longer than we do, which is how it should be. And joy of my career, I've been able to work with brilliant doctoral students, most of whom want to carve out an academic life, some of whom follow other paths blazed by their education. It's the greatest privilege of an academic scholar to work with the next, and now in my case, the next generation. And the rule I follow in doing so is never to forget what it felt like to be in their shoes, trying to put it all together in original form, working hard to turn ideas into research, research into sentences, paragraphs, articles, and books. It's all so thrilling to me, and I've been so lucky. I hope that through these brief remarks, you can glean a sense of what this honor means to me. I'm standing here atop the shoulders of so many people whose influence through their work, their mentorship, their abiding curiosity, and their sheer decency reverberates to this day through my head, my heart, and my nerdy soul. I love books. I love libraries. I love book people. I'm married to a curator at the Huntington, for goodness sakes. A card catalog romance that began nearly 35 years ago when we were introduced by the curator of rare books. Allow me a coda, an additional thread tying together these Oscar Lewis Award winners, the people I know or knew and those that I do not, is that their work, just like the Book Club of California itself, faces the public. These writers and thinkers produced and yet produce works that epitomize the phrase publicly accessible. But we all know that wishing to have your work enter a dialogue with the public beyond the academy is never a given. It requires, in the first place, a deep level of commitment to writerly craft. And it demands a respectful awareness that the public or those publics are not just the recipients of research accomplishment and dissemination. The public is a partner. The words and the ideas go both ways. My entire and now long career, my writing and the work of the Huntington USC Institute on California West in the West, is built upon that same foundation. It's a privilege. It takes work, and it's inspiring to me to be here in that very spirit this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. That was a fabulous talk. I know those albums well. Next, to present the 2026 Oscar Lewis Award for the Book Arts, please welcome Stephanie Kimbrough Dolan.
Thank you, Cherry. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay, good. Looking out at this crowd, I see a lot of familiar faces, a lot of us from the book arts community who are here to honor John Demerit's contributions to the field. His work and generosity have extended out to every aspect of the art of bookmaking, from paper makers and fine press printers to book designers and fellow bookbinders. Not only has John provided book collectors and collecting institutions with gorgeously bound books, he has also generously given his time and mentorship to numerous bookmakers and binders across California and the country. A little bit about John. John Demerit owns and operates John Demerit Bookbinding in Emeryville. Since 1995, John's studio has produced books and portfolios for artists, galleries, fine press publishers, and institutions. He has produced work for Richard Mishrock, forgive me if I mispronounce these names, Emily McVarish, Granary Books, David Hockney, Crown Point Press, Peter Koch and the Codex Foundation, the Book Club of California, Richard Wagoner and Milwaukee Press, Lapis Press, the Fine Arts Museums of San Francisco, Paulson Fontaine Press, Maloney Printmaking, Michael Light, Magnolia Editions, Pier 24, Russell Merritt, and many more. It's a long list. It's a lot of work. For the Book Club of California, he designed the deluxe edition for our 2022 publication, Thunderbolt and the Monk by Nancy Stock Allen. John has taught and lectured at the San Francisco Center for the Book, the Kala Institute, Columbia College Center for Book and Paper, Visual Studies Workshop, Oregon College of Arts and Crafts, the Guild of Bookworkers, the North Bennett Street School, UC Santa Cruz, Dartmouth, Maloney Printmaking, Paper and Book Intensive, and the Penland School of Craft. Another long list of people he has influenced and generously given his time to. John is the previous president of the Handbook Binders of California, and for 8 years was the co-president with Steve Woodall of the Colophon Club. I am a recipient of that leadership. No, thank you. A lot of us in here are very grateful to you for your leadership during that time, especially during the pandemic. From 2000 to 2013, John taught book structure at the San Francisco Art Institute, Since 2024, he has been the design consultant at Arion Press. John and his wife, Nora Powles, publish collaborative projects with artists under their imprint, Demerit Powles Editions. It is my great honor to present the 2026 Oscar Lewis Award for the Book Arts to John Demerit. Please join me in congratulating.
End up being.
Last John to say a few words.
It's exquisite, Dina. Thank you, Stephanie. You might need this. Oh, thanks. Okay.
Can everybody hear me okay? Wow, card catalog romance. Bill. That was sexy. Can you tell Bill and I just met Bill earlier and we realized we're both Colorado natives. That's why we're just so exceptional, I guess.
Year of the Rockies, John.
Pardon me?
Year of the Rockies.
Year of the Rockies. That's right. That's what we can call it, 2026. I want a heartfelt thanks to the Book Club of California. I've been coming here for a long, long time. Y'all remember when the Handbook Binders of California? I mean, the generosity of the book club. I think about that they used to Handbook Binders used to have all our meetings here. It was really fun. Dominic and I were hospitality chairs. We won't tell you where we got all that food, but that was really that was really a great time. So I'm especially thrilled to receive this award tonight. And I want to thank the Book Club of California director, Kevin Kosick, and the Oscar Lewis Awards committee, especially Stephanie and Gloria Condrup for honoring me with the Oscar Lewis Award this year. So many greats and old friends are also recipients, and I'm flattered to be included among them. I love this picture, the ties that bind us all together. That's a book we did for Jen Bervin. I'm going to talk about this guy? I'm going to talk about some people in my life. I hope I'll explain who they are if you don't know who they are. I'm going to talk about my full tilt career as an edition binder. I've been a professional bookbinder literally since the first day I ever did it. I got a job via a friend with the maestro, Klaus Ulrich S. Recher. In about 87 or 88, we'd have to ask him. He has a better memory than I do for dates. I was bouncing around San Francisco, no idea what to do with myself, and I heard that Klaus was looking for an assistant. To my surprise, I was somehow able to convince him to hire me. I had no experience in bookmaking. I had no degree. I'd made stuff, but never in any kind of applied way. The man took me in and for a few years showed me just about everything I need to know in the studio and how to live the kind of life I've been living ever since. Klaus had so much talent. Any one of you who have worked with him know what I'm talking about. He had so much talent, experience, discipline, and determination. He also had an enviable, neutral approach to the kind of work he did, which I've never been quite able to duplicate. He perceived doing a job for Ed Ruscha, binding someone's thesis, binding edition for Jack Stoffaker, or fixing the family Bible as existing on the same plane. They were containers of the cosmos, one not better than the other. Alas, I'm much more of a snob and constantly get caught up in chasing someone else's fairy dust, thinking it might make me better. It's selling yourself short, and I appreciate that Klaus didn't dabble in that. I still attempt to operate my day-to-day in the Recher style, start the same time every day, applying a system and precision to the work no matter what. Going against type, Klaus also had one of the great tongue-in-cheek senses of humor. I was so gullible. He once told me there were mega ocean freighters with binderies on them. Crossing back and forth across the Pacific from the US to Japan, binding en route. I asked him how I could get a job on one. He also told me that the best bone folders were made of deer femur. I believed him. Klaus showed me the ways of multiple making, the systems that I still use today. You all know I make a very exquisite box, right? That's a retro box you get from my bindery. That box has sustained me financially throughout my whole career. It paid our mortgage, paid our kids' college tuition, and helped me develop a lateral motion system of business that doesn't rely entirely on the handmade book world. He handed me my career on a platter. After after Klaus, I went on to work on the glorious pirate vessel known as Taurus Bookbindery, run by Tim James. With Klaus, it was a little more cloistered off and jewel-like. At Taurus, there were sometimes 4 or 5 binders. Don't you think 4 or 5? 4 or 5 binders working at the same time in a 500 square foot room. Totally bonkers. I learned how to go so fast at Taurus and met my bedrock colleagues. Karel Romain, Sasha Masalov, Tom Conroy, who passed away this year, and my brother from another mother, Dominic Riley. There's Mr. Riley and I at St. Bride's in London a few years ago, making our homage. Tim James never said no to a job. Every kind of binding operation occurred at Taurus: conservation, restoration, editioning, box making, repair, you name it. And usually all at the same time. You got good at being fast, operating machines and equipment, and turning colons on their side to make umlauts. Elaine Tennant, do you know who I did that for?
More than once.
I walked off my job at Taurus in a huff one day, and the next I was in business. 1995, I'm still here. I work in the realm of multiples. A few quotes from some of my favorite British thinkers. I work in the realm of multiples, almost exclusively making editions. I focus about 89% of my work on the execution of 2 humble structures that come out of the 19th century bookbinding publishing tradition. 1, the case binding, and 2, the Solander or clamshell box. Edition binding is a mode of bookbinding tradition that grew out of the Industrial Revolution. Beginning in the early 19th century, book production became more mechanized, power-driven. Books were no longer bound individually, but in permanent batches using new techniques, materials, and many new machines. Contemporary edition binding finds its roots in 19th century publishers' binding techniques, but takes those methods and uses them in a very boutique and exclusive way. It's similar to the way that letterpress printers use the Vandercook proof press, a kind of obsolete piece of printing equipment, as an essential art-making tool. This is some of the best business philosophy ever given to me by my stepson, Sam Powles Lloyd, when he was about 9 years old. Don't you think? All right. So take that. That's about the way I run my business. Have, need, money. That's that, after, kids, they're the best artists. I joke a lot about being known as the binder who takes all the work that no one else wants. I've done that so many times. I've made 2,000 menus for a long gone restaurant in San Francisco, made boxes for flight logs from NASA flights, including a Ziploc bag full of moon dust. I stole a little bit. Covered 56-inch diameter fiberglass globes with hundreds of strips of Japanese kozo, made housings for 9-channel video pieces for the man, David Hockney, RIP, and bound 85-kilo books about the DNA strand of a white pheasant for the Belgian artist Koen van Mechelen. Every time I've told myself, never again. After a short recovery period, I'm usually ready to get crazy again. I've probably made something for about half the people in this room, and probably for most of you online, and even bound an edition or 2 for the Book Club of California. More than 1 or 2, actually. Have you all read the book Catapult by Jim Paul? Anybody? Oh man, lucky you. Yeah. Catapult. Harry and I build a siege weapon. by the medievalist Jim Paul. Jim Paul and his buddy Harry get a grant from the Headland Center. I think one of the first grants that the Headland Center ever gave out to fund the research and construction of a medieval catapult and launch projectiles off one of the decommissioned batteries just over there in the Headlands. The project is a meditation on the military history of the Bay Area and the male impulse to hurl things. The book is one of the great, in my opinion, the book is one of the great books about process, materiality, and discovery. Jim and Harry often end up in deep East Oakland at a random machine shop trying to convince that particular pirate ship to fabricate a leaf spring or a beam for their catapult. They are noobs, don't speak the lingo, have a hard time communicating what they want because they don't really know. And just about always, they either get laughed out of the shop, ripped off, or both. But once in a while, they make a connection and someone really gets invested in their endeavor and they make the most essential braided wire piece or leaf spring. I cannot tell you how many catapult experiences I have had in the last 30 years. I have been to mattress factories, plastics manufacturers, CNC emporiums, many, many art studios, industrial print shops, and digital labs. At times, I might be watching my buddy, Miguel Olvera, who worked for many years at Catercraft Bindery in LA, fire up the room-sized Franklin foil stamper and print an 18-inch tall white pheasant in gold on a piece of white leather. And I say to myself, we are engaging in materiality, the embodiment of consciousness. Materials serve as the language that articulate the vision that serves to make ideas tangible. Materiality is the human component of bookmaking for me. And the book bindery is where the ideas become the objects, the body, the embodiment of the simulation of life. All that in Pico Rivera. Nicholson Baker wrote about this in his collection of essays, The Size of Thoughts. For Baker, the physical dimensions of a book, the width of its margins, the feel of its paper, the typography, are never neutral. They carry intention, history, a kind of argument about how the reader ought to inhabit the text. He famously mourned the destruction of card catalogs in libraries, right down the street, by the way, with the same grief one might feel for a demolished building. Because a physical system of knowledge is knowledge organized in space, and that spatial quality is never merely decorative. Umberto Eco wrote about why the book as object has proven so durable. He argued that the book is a perfect technology, like the spoon or the hammer. It's hard to improve upon. It needs no power source. Survives century and creates an intimate relationship between reader and text that is fundamentally private and portable. He insisted that even in a digital age, the book object carries something that screens cannot, a sense of finitude, of the text having edges, of the reader being able to feel how far they've come and how far they have yet to go. So those are the size of my thoughts, that come at the most random times, a product of our work and our process. I think that's why I love my vocation so much. In 2000, when I was hired sight unseen by Jack Fulton, who was the chair of the photography department at the San Francisco Art Institute, that school was often mocked with a really unperceptive snub. All critique and no technique. I think Jack might have hired me to bring a little technique to the department, but I ended up being the lucky one because I got a first-rate education in the importance of critique. Like real sit in a circle and talk about it, face-to-face critique, maybe for the first time in my life. Students might not have known much about making a gravure or gilding an edge, but without hesitation, they would circle up and throw down on the meaning and vitality of each other's work. Jeff Gunderson, legendary San Francisco Art Institute librarian, which I believe was a Bender library also, San Francisco. Is that true?
Bremer. And Bremer's like.
And Bremer's like
cousin.
Bender's
Cousin.
cousins. Thank you, John McBride.
Yes.
Thank you. Where was I? Would speak to our class on the first day of class and give a thorough history lesson of that school, and always end it with the great inclusive statement, and now you are part of that history. So don't hold back. It was a profound experience for me. I was used to hiding behind my skills, my battery, where I kept my catapult to defend myself against the world. I think any craftsperson can fall into this state of being, and I think we should all endeavor to live in the light. Peter Koch once said to me, "You bookbinders travel in flocks." A few printers do too. That really stayed with me. We can talk about tools all day, and I love doing that. But when do we get to talk about the content? Being at SFAI taught me to really lean into what I do unapologetically and not get hung up on who makes the better end band or whatever. Because we all got something to say. I learned that lesson from hundreds of very open young people in one ornery printer publisher. In her mentor, sorry, Nar. She's one from one of our therapy sessions. In her memoir, The Far Away Nearby, Rebecca Solnit, Oscar Lewis recipient, advises her audience to never turn down an adventure without a really good reason. I took that to heart too. Nora and I were sitting around our dinner table one night in about 2014 with the great Renaissance man, Clifton Metter. Some of you may know Cliff. And he casually asked us if we wanted to help produce and publish his upcoming book project, Pankisi Prayer Rug. We didn't want to let Rebecca down, so we agreed, and so began our odyssey into publishing books. I have worked alongside publishers my whole career in very deep collaborative ways, but we never named ourselves publishers. Doing that has really freed up the way I approach making books and objects. All of our projects exist primarily as a way to engage in deep collaboration with artists that we connect with. This collaborative process becomes the engine that creates the space for our investigations into making our books. Approaching a project in this way allows us to move laterally through book space, design space, sculpture, printing, and multiple making. Approaching publishing as a binder and printmaker has led us to adopt this approach, which we feel is unusual among publishers. My engagement to books has always been through the object. This is very much informed by vocation as a binder who works a lot in the art world, and a binder who makes a huge number of boxes and portfolios, not just for books, but also for objects and increasingly for digital media. I am very interested in the way we manifest ideas into objects, relying on the process to expand and clarify an idea. For both Nora and I, and me, creating an independent object out of an idea has become less a literary or graphic impulse than something more akin to the act of making a vessel, such as a coffin, a boat, or a housing development. We are interested in making manifest a container for an idea. The final project manifests, reflects, and embodies that initial gem of an idea. That's one of our latest printing projects, publishing projects we did with the photographer Paula McCartney. She would describe this as a deconstructed book. I couldn't do what I do alone, nor would I want to. I see edition binding is very much akin to working in a restaurant or being in a band. The work is what Steve Woodall, I think years ago, called symphonic. Thank you. The sum of the parts is larger than any one contribution. At my zenith, I had three really competent assistants, Andy Rotner, Aaron Fong, and Sienna Valley. I'm not sure how I managed that at the time, but it sure was fun. And we churned out a huge amount of projects that I could not have done by myself. Andy, Aaron, and Sienna have all moved on to other greatness, which is a huge compliment, but I've still got my longtime assistant, Emily Johnson Gow, helping me out in my late period. I think I've defined my late period as when the Oscar Lewis Award is bestowed upon you, and then you enter your late period.
Sean, it's not terminal.
Oh, thank you very much.
Terminal.
Oh, glad to hear that. I'm not done with my work, helping with my late period. Emily started working for me when she was a student at Oakland School of the Arts Magnet High School. She was 15. Child labor, and needed an internship. I hired her after about 6 weeks. She was so good. I like to think Emma's a little like me in that she just kind of stumbled into the world of books, and in many ways we don't really fit the mold. But that's cool. She's worked for me for almost 15 years now and is an exceptionally talented binder. Many of the most profound discoveries I've had about life and my work have happened very quietly when Em and I are trying to puzzle out yet another job I arrogantly thought I was capable of doing and can't back out of because I took all the clients' money. In 2024, Blake Riley and Rolf Blythe, creative director and director of Arion Press, cajoled me into coming onto Arion Press and helping them design and conceive books. As many of you know, this was the time just before Arion moved from Presidio to their current home at Fort Mason. Since then, I've become like an embedded reporter at Arion, not quite in the trenches, but adjacent as their design consultant. Over the last 2 years, I've embarked on a new adventure at Arion that requires a different kind of thought process for me, allowing me to mine my own past and apply lessons from that past to the books Arion wants to conceive. I really love and appreciate the generous agency I'm given to really dive in and help make the objects sing. It's a big picture bookmaking activity that has been so educational for me. At Arion, all you have to do is walk down the hall to go pester Blake about a concept or learn mystic and cosmic truths from Brian and Bronco, celestial printing math from Joel, and watch how Ted Gioia keeps the Arion nonprofit juggernaut afloat. I get to hang out in the bindery and really go deep with Megan and Diane, mining our collective material conscience about how the hell we will attach that thing to that other thing and make it look hatched like it always existed. The book world is, in the end, for me, all about community. Why the hell else would you want to work in this world if it wasn't for the people? This crazy city is turning itself upside down once again in a place of never-ending change. I like to think that one of the constants of this place is that it is a longtime home of blue-collar artists who make stuff. I consider myself to be part of that continuum. That will stay constant moving into the future as well. There is a vacuum now. Many studios and longtime small manufacturing shops have closed. Workspace is ridiculously expensive. All the art schools are shuttered. We should all know by now that the utopian tech proclamations of the next best thing are not going to save anybody or any of us. What does keep us all vital and sane is our community. I really believe this. I would encourage you to support the institutions that do still exist in this incredible book town and environs. The Book Club of California, where we're all meeting tonight, the San Francisco Center for the Book, the Kala Institute, the American Bookbinders Museum, the Letterform Archive, the Codex Foundation and Book Fair, the San Francisco Art Book Fair, and my happy place, In Cahoots residency in Petaluma. I also want to thank the San Francisco Public Library, especially Andrea Grimes, the Bancroft Libraries at Stanford University and Stanford University Libraries for all their interest and support of our publishing endeavors. And finally, the biggest shout out of all to my wife, my Flemish queen, Nora Bowles, who props me up. Sorry, I didn't mean to embarrass you, Nora. Who props me up literally on the daily. I like to say at the end of big projects, my health and marriage remain intact. I'll end my talk with a final thought. If experientiality is about the simulation of embodied life, then the material book is the site where that simulation lands in an actual body. The two are not separate registers, one textual, one physical, but deeply entangled. Thank you.
Please join me in thanking both of our Oscar Lewis Award recipients this evening, John Demerit and William Deverell. And thank you for joining us here at the Book Club of California or joining us online. I'm really delighted that you all could be here and be part of this wonderful event. I look forward to the next time we can do this all together next year for the Oscar Lewis Awards. In the meantime, I'm just going to close by saying this concludes the 2026 Oscar Lewis Awards. Thank you again for being with us, and thank you for your support of the Book Club of California. Good night, everyone.